Hey, I'm Kent Mantle with Elegant Transportation in San Antonio. I'm so blessed today to switch seats with the interviewer, and now I get to be the interviewer. I'm on Gabe Molina's 100th podcast anniversary show. I'm so blessed to be here. Let's do it.
You're listening to the Gabe Molina podcast.
Welcome back to the Gabe Molina Show.
Thanks for having me, Kent.
I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for accepting the invitation.
You know, I really considered not coming.
Me to come to you.
I've been watching a lot of Love After Lockup, where losers date inmates. Not that people are losers, but these guys on the show are, and gals. But anyway.
Well, I'm already taken. I'm so sorry. I just.
Nina thinks I'm weird. And you know what's funny is as I've gotten older, I think I might be in love with love, Kent.
We all should be. We totally should all be.
Oh, man.
What a great phrase.
What do they say? You crave what you don't get? I'm joking. That's a joke. I get a lot of
that. That is too funny.
My cup runneth over, Kent.
And mine does too. And I'm so excited that we're doing this.
I am too.
So congratulations. It's such a milestone. It's crazy.
I'm really excited about it. Like I told you before, this was kind of like a digital scrapbook for myself after loved ones had passed. And it's slowly evolving into just a regular podcast that I get to meet cool people and interesting people and hear their stories. And, I was thinking the other day, you always hear about, we get this, it's real fast paced, right? Our society now, social media, all kinds of stuff.
Right.
And it's like hundreds of years ago, people were storytellers, right? And not that I'm a storyteller, but I almost feel like...
You bring the story out.
Well, I was telling the lady...
You're a psychiatrist. We talked about that earlier.
Sometimes I need one. But it's like I was telling the lady the other day, I feel I've had such a variety of people on. It almost feels like not being one of those old school storytellers, but almost like an archivist, right?
Right.
Collecting these stories, putting them in a location to share with people, and hopefully they get something out of it. But
it's been such a wide variety of people.
Yeah.
That you've had. And so what's funny is I made some questions up for you.
Oh, okay.
And so, and you really kind of just answer the first one. What does reaching the 100th episode mean for you, like personally and professionally, on this track?
I think didn't realize I was getting here until I was already here. But I think I'm more appreciative than anything because it's the guests who have made it interesting, who have made it a podcast, who have made it a good podcast. I'm thankful to hear their stories, but it's because of them.
Right.
So
right.
They're the reason.
And I haven't seen every episode, but the episodes I've seen, it makes me think, like we were talking earlier. When
that's not true. You've seen every episode.
Almost.
Just tell me you did.
And I think ours are some of the longest. It's like, God dang, did we talk that long?
Well, it's because if we were hanging out, we'd be doing the same thing.
Totally the same thing.
Yeah.
Just like we were talking about. But here's my other question. Looking back, did you ever think that this was going to evolve into the 100th episode? And you keep jumping the gun and start answering it before I got, before I put the question out.
Like I said, no, I wanted to have keepsakes, The best thing I ever did was record Dad twice,
right.
Mom as well. But when Dad died, Kent, I wish we'd have done video, he and I. We just did audio. But having that, to hear his voice, man, I tell you what, there is no thing that I own that's probably more precious than those audio files.
Totally.
And
did you get any video at all?
None. It was my first one.
Okay.
So having those, even the originals, it's there's the processed portion, right, that makes the show.
Right.
But then there's just little conversations, little things before, little things after. And it's like, when you don't have that voice anymore, because he's passed.
Right.
Man, it's something else. You know, I literally got to the point there where even on my cell phone I would record things. You know, just he and I talking. You know, and you forget how much you appreciate those things when they're going. So
Yeah. Oh, that chokes me up just to hear it. I have the same thing with one of my sisters left me a voicemail before she died.
yeah,
I'll keep it forever.
prized possessions, man.
is.
Prized possessions.
So let me ask you this, and you were leading right into it. How's the podcast changed since the very first episode to where you're at now? And you can kind of see
Yeah.
the changes. You know, when I do, and I have this is my fourth to be with you.
Yeah.
And so I've seen your evolution, you know, but how's it feel? I mean, how did you get there?
You know, Best Buy credit card.
Amen.
You know what's funny is my buddy lets me use his space.
Yeah. It's just a great place.
I'm super thankful. I tell everybody he treats me way better than I deserve. So the space helps, you know, and after a while it was like, okay, well, let me buy better quality equipment. And there's still levels to achieve.
Right.
You know, my buddy Renee told me one time, he said, I'm stepping my game up. You need to step yours up, you know, and kind of made me think, you know what, if I want people to hear your story, if I want people to hear about things that other people, when you give me your time to come here and tell me your story, it took me a while to realize this because it was just like a little pet project Gabe was doing to acquire information and audio and scrapbook. But
And I remember back then you saying that.
Yeah.
Just, you know.
and now it's kind of like I learned and I'm progressing in that direction. I owe it to the people who give me their time to come on to the podcast to produce something that others are going to want to listen to and watch. Because if they don't, I wasted your time, right? I appreciate our one-on-one, but the reality is I would love to just go hang out with you at your house, right? But the reality is us sitting here, you're telling me your story so that I can share with people so they can learn or have an experience themselves. So it started off with just audio, some shitty cell phones and an iPad, and I hated it all. If I don't want to see it, I know you don't want to see it, right? So I had to, it just progressed. And like
So what episode, when did that change? When were you going into? 40, 50?
I think it was maybe like 60 or something like that. I mean, I started going to video like earlier, like 40. I started getting the better stuff like maybe 60 or 70. But whatever podcast it was where Best Buy was stupid enough to give me a credit card, that's when that kicked in. Yeah. Yeah. So everybody goes, this stuff's cool. And it's like, Best Buy credit card. Yeah.
Love them.
You better pay that interest off before it
Let me
hits
tell you.
because it's like 30%.
Another question I thought of, what's one thing you've learned about podcasting that you didn't expect to learn?
How much of a pain in the ass video is.
It is.
It's a lot of work. Yeah. The editing, the processing, the uploading.
So the audio was pretty quick.
Audio was super quick. Yeah.
You could edit that quick.
It was when you added the video where it was like, oh my God, what did I do?
You're doubling your work.
But my OCD wouldn't let me go backwards, right? So it's like, I already got one toe in. I may as well jump in.
Well, that's how that's progressed for everybody, not just you. You know,
super frustrating. And then, you know, I've had a friend of mine tell me one time, her name's Shannon. We did a podcast. They were with a organization that provides water to kids, I think in Honduras or somewhere, schools too. And man, I am a lazy son of a gun. But when it comes to like work, I try and be a perfectionist, and it really screws me up. And one day when I was sitting with her and her partner Selena, Shannon said, "Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Sometimes just getting good done is good enough, you know." And so I've learned to embrace the imperfections. Right. I saw David Lee Roth, and I'm gonna screw it up, but he was on Rogan one time, and this also kind of hit me a little bit, where he said the Japanese have a word for perfection and imperfection, and I forget what the word was. I mean, people can Google it. probably Google it after we get done. But so now I slowly am learning to appreciate the things that aren't perfect in on all aspects, right? I hate when, and you can ask Nina, we go to the grocery store, I'd never buy a dented box. Ever.
I don't either.
I couldn't stand it.
Dented can.
It's the same way.
Right.
Now, maybe I'm getting older, but now I'm just like, it's all right for things not to be perfect.
See, I still won't do it.
You still
I
won't?
mean, if that's the last box,
Yeah.
I'll still leave it.
Yeah. It depends on if it's honeycomb or honey smacks. I'll take whatever they have left. So.
Too funny. All right. I'm going to move on to another one.
Okay.
And and this was tough for me to even, should I even say this?
Dude, do it. Kent, it's me.
I know.
I love you. If we weren't married, we'd probably be in a domestic partnership.
I'd have to think about that. You know that story. We're not going to talk about it.
I'm ready already.
You're funny. And I don't want you to say me, but who's been your most memorable guest that had the most personal effect on you out of 99 episodes?
You know what? There's been a bunch. Of course, I love ours together because you're hilarious and you have the best stories. And I don't even think we would scratch the surface. I was thinking about this the other day, and I was like, man, there really is a bunch, and for different reasons. Like, of course, I love the ones that I do with Dad and Mom. Right. I think if I lost
those are time
everything, those would be the four that I'd be heartbroken over. Okay. But it's I don't know, since the guests have been such a wide variety of people, like they impact you deeply, but from different directions, right? So like Bob Strauss, Bob was the shit for a while, and not that Bob's not the shit now. I think he's the shit now, but for other reasons, but he was a musician. He would tour, he would play shows. Everybody knew Bob. Everybody wanted to party with Bob. And then one day, he stops doing drugs, and I
remember that story.
He's less popular.
Isn't that crazy?
It reminded me of Dad. When Dad stopped drinking, nobody wanted to hang out with him. And then later on they did, but it was for other reasons. And Bob's the same way. Now people come to Bob, but for something else. And I think even told Bob back then, for the most part, my life's been cake. Sure, everybody goes through things, but I haven't been through anything that half of the guests that I've had on have been through. But when I see people like that endure and make their way through a terrible situation, like even though I haven't experienced that, it tells me that if I'm ever in a position where I'm that down, there's a way out, because Bob did it.
Always.
April Chang, the last one I did, her losing her son at 3 years old at a swim school. It's like it's impossible to not have that impact you. And it's funny because there's this weird song, and sometimes I get over dramatic, Kent. But there's a weird song, or not a weird song, but Stone Sour has a song called "Made of Scars," and he talks about all the scars he has on him. And it's funny because I haven't experienced these things that people have gone through, their scars, but in a way, it leaves an impression on me. And I think I've told people before, when we have these conversations, even though I didn't go through that, in our conversation, and not just a passing conversation, this podcast we're doing an hour or 2 hours, right. Having that experience and that time with those people and feeling those emotions through that time period, it's almost like I get the benefit of the experience that they endured without having to endure the difficulty that they did, if that makes sense.
Right.
And
well, each one's a lesson.
Yes.
Of how it happened, what happened, the impact of that person's life, and
how
they're living with it.
Right.
And it teaches you, definitely I've listened to quite a few of those from your podcast, and it makes you go, well, if I was ever in that situation. What's funny is a little bit of good knowledge.
You don't gain strength till you've been through some shit,
right. So true.
And I'm not saying that I'm gaining strength from the experience that they've been through, because I didn't go through it.
Right.
But in that conversation, I might get 1% from them, and it really does affect your character, not to get all crazy on you. But Dad died over a year ago. Last year, Kent, I was fucking terrible. Right. I was miserable. I was angry. It was not good. Went to work, went home. It was a total mess. It's a whole nother conversation. But it's funny because eventually, and everybody grieves, right?
Right.
But eventually, I got to this year, and I think it was maybe a month or so ago, where something clicked, and all of a sudden, I could think about my loved ones without being a total mess. And it happens to everybody. Right. But it was so interesting because, like, even the last lady that I talked to, April, it was funny because to have that conversation with her, I wouldn't have been able to do that last year because it was a nightmare. Right. So, like, I think it comes with age too, but you build strength that you didn't have previously at a younger age. Right. And I think having these conversations with people and learning from them and going, I'm not the only one that feels that way. Because you always feel like you are. You never are, but you always feel like you're the only one going through something. But to hear that and to see where people are nowadays, like, we go back to Bob. I told Bob one time, I said, I'd love for you to write a book. I said, because you're 20, 30 years down the road that somebody's starting yesterday, Right. And that experience, one thing that I think I've always been able to do since I was young is, sure, I screwed up, but I didn't screw up a whole lot because I always paid attention to what everybody else was doing. And I was learning through their experiences. And I think that's part of what this kind of does for me too. So, and I hope it does it for other people as well.
But it's such a wide variety of people from one spectrum to the other that you've had on here.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
They keep it interesting.
Everybody has a story.
Or you guys keep it interesting. Wow. And they do. Everybody really does. People go, where do you get your guests? And I'm like, dude, they're just here in San Antonio.
Right.
There's athletes. There's people that have had family members commit suicide. There's people that have been drug addicts. There's people that have built companies. And there's you that's done, you've lived 1,000 lifetimes.
Blessed, every one of it. And it feels like 1,000.
Yeah,
it really does. Sometimes.
And everybody's here in the area, So, I mean, for people who want to start a podcast, I always say, go do it, Right. And it's difficult, right? It's difficult to find people because there's people you don't even know exist. But it's one of those things where you just got to check. One person leads to another person who leads to another person. And before you know it, there's a chain of people that you've connected with. And I was never a networking guy. I thought networking's stupid. All I need are the people I already got, And as I got older, I realized you need a network.
You do.
You really do. If anything, just to build friendships and connect with people. So it's life's easier when you network with folks.
And part of my life is totally networking.
Absolutely.
I go to these big conventions with 5,000 other limousine owners, and you meet somebody new.
Inferior limousine owners.
Oh my gosh!
I'll say it. You won't. I will.
They're good people, but they're from the very beginning starters to the 2,000 car guys.
Yeah.
And it's such a wide variety of people, but it's about networking. And even if they don't use you, which is the end game. Mm-hmm. It's the friendships that you build.
Yeah.
And it's always an amazing thing. Like being here, you form a kinship with every one of your guests a little bit.
Yeah.
So is that how you got from one person to another person to another person?
Yeah.
Like it's referral?
Kind of. Some of them were Gary Brugman, who should be here later on. He was interesting because I had heard his story, and then I found him on Instagram. And I was like, he's in San Antonio. So I messaged him, and I'm like, hey, I got a podcast, and it's in the San Antonio area. If you're ever around, let me know. And he's like, yeah, I live here. And I said, okay. Well, Gary lives 2 exits from my house.
No.
And then I see Gary, and I see Gary's hanging out with Victor Avila, and I see Victor's in town. I message Victor. So then that happened with Victor. Marie Vega, she's from the Valley. Through Victor, just kind of seeing his interactions and correspondence, and not being nosy, I just like to see what people got going on.
Yeah.
Then I reach out to her, and it's funny because Gary and Marie Vega and a few other folks, I had zero knowledge of it, but I find out after meeting them and sitting with them, they do Eddie.
What was their common thread? What was about them that led you from here to here? Their story. Not you don't have to elaborate on the story, but this was this,
well,
and then
it's usually politics,
okay,
right, and death, right. So Gary had gotten arrested in being a Border Patrol agent. They came after him, and he did time. Marie Vega's son was murdered by some illegals. He was a Border Patrol agent. Victor Avila was a Homeland Security agent in Mexico got shot by the cartel. And it's like their common thread is extreme cases that happened in their life that led them to a political standpoint and a place to stand on and say, hey, I want this to be heard because this impacted me. And so that's kind of their thread, and very strong stories. Marie's story was amazing because one thing that I'm simple. Marie's story was so awesome because in Marie's story here's a little bitty Mexican lady whose Border Patrol son and her husband and her grandkids are fishing and shooting guns, having a day messing around. Some illegals come up, shoot at them, kill her son, shoot her husband. And Marie the little bitty Mexican lady, has the wherewithal and strength to pick up an AR and shoot back. And I think the gun ends up jamming, but it was enough that the guys who shot at them fled because somebody was fighting back, And the things that make me emotional is I sit there and I go, here's this tiny lady whose family's in peril, and her first reaction is to pick up a gun and fight back. Those are the people that I don't know that I'm built like.
Freaking amazing.
Yeah. And like to be able to get an hour or two of these people and to stay in contact with them and wish them happy birthday. It's like, who doesn't want to be friends with a lady like that?
Right.
Who will sit there and go, I'm defending my family. People talk about it all the time. You hear people say all the time, I'd die for so-and-so. And it's like, oh, Marie really will. Yeah. And it's like, those people, it's a privilege to get to know. It's a privilege to get to know a lot of folks. But when you meet somebody like that, it's like, that's a rarity, I think.
That's so crazy.
Stuff like that, it hits you and it stays with you, right?
I mean, who knows people like that,
right?
That have lived that,
yeah.
And come back to talk about it.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
She's got a great story that's hard to listen to, but and again, to hear that story coming out of the little bitty voice that's carrying it around, it impacts even harder because it's like, man, that's a crazy story, and this little bitty thing did it. So
that's crazy. Then you went on to musicians.
Yeah,
you've had quite a few musicians.
You know what? I love music. I hate that I can't sing or play anything. Can't stand it. As a matter of fact, it makes me a little irritated.
We need to do it. We need to do guitar lessons.
You know what? I'm a percussionist, I found. I'm a noise maker. Ask Nina, I got one of those little, like the cumbia people use. Right. She hates it. I do too, because I don't know what I'm doing, but I just love it. But man, I love talking to musicians. One thing that I like about it is a lot of these people are not well known, right? They're not huge. They're playing some gigs, and it's so fun because I love Dwight Yoakam. If Dwight Yoakam walked in, it'd be awesome. And I'm sure he's got some great stories.
He's very quiet.
Oh, yeah, of course you know him.
No, I've met him, and I've driven him, but he's just an everyday guy.
Yeah.
It just happens to be Dwight Yoakam.
Yeah.
But very calm, very, just kind of keeps to himself. Good guy.
Super talented.
Very talented.
I told Nina, Guitars and Cadillacs is on my death mixtape. So I got a death mixtape.
I have one too. Totally. When you get, and it seems like that when you start thinking about your mortality.
Yeah.
What do I want to hear? I mean, it's time. It's freaky to even think about that.
Did it happen in your 40s? Your mortality?
No. It was like right in the 60s.
Oh, really?
Just turning. So I'm 63 now.
Yeah.
And so when I turned 61, I at that point outlived my father. And then you kept thinking, is it going to come any minute? You don't know.
Yeah.
And it just goes on like that. Then you start thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking about, and I'm such a music fan, and listen to it constantly all day. You start thinking about that. What's your jam? Yeah. How you want to go out?
Yeah.
And I mean, my funeral is going to be like 2 hours long. And I just want you to sit there and jam out,
I told Nina, I said, when I die, I even told my nephew Jared, because I don't think Nina would follow through. She is. I said, when I die, I want to be, I said, I don't care how you do it. I said, write it in the program, but I need to be at the church 30 minutes late. I said, I'm late everywhere I go. I said, I don't care how you do it. I need to be there 30 minutes late. And so I'll probably end up getting, I don't know, buried or what is it, cremated. But when I was younger, I got a buddy of mine named Luis and my brother Vidal. And we always hack on each other all the time. And I always said I was going to make it in my will that when I died, I was going to be buried a mile uphill, and those two were going to be my only pallbearers. That was going to be my last fuck you to those two. But at this point, at our age and all the arthritis, I don't think we'd get anywhere. So
yeah, we're going to get a dolly. Here, just leave him up.
My brother told me, he said, when you die, we're going to dig a hole next to you and set you on fire. Hey, he said, you're going to burn for months.
That is horrible.
Those are the people I grew up with, Kent.
You know it. They love you, though.
Well,
they say that in a loving way.
Maybe
I'm
a heavy
sure.
like.
Here, we'll get to one more question here.
Yeah.
And I kind of lived it a few times since I've been here. Explain the process of making this go. From you walk in the door, or you walk in the door back there, you just start unloading your truck, and then?
Yeah. You know, again, Bo's the shit. But my goal is to come in here, do whatever the fuck I want to do, and then leave. And then Bo and his staff come in Monday morning and not realize I was ever here.
Right.
I want to take my own trash out.
For sure.
I bring my stuff. I got a couple of crates that I keep in the back here, that stuff he lets me leave here. But it's literally, I always tell people when I send them texts or messages, I'm like, hey, we got a podcast.
Me and my roadies.
Yeah, I'm like my staff and I. But you know what? I fucking hate it, Kent. Like, I love this.
Getting here.
Right? But loading up the truck, pulling up, coming in, breaking everything down, setting everything up, getting everything ready. There's times where, like, I forgot to charge the batteries, or I forgot to delete stuff, and I'll lose the camera, or I'll lose the sound, and just weird things have happened. But just trying to set things up, and then it's kind of like, fuck, I didn't do any research, right? So when it's people like that are researchable, then I can do it real quick, get some information, have some talking points. If it's you, I'm not looking shit up. I can't wait to hang out with you. We're going to talk, and we're just going to roll with it.
And
right?
I'll say too much.
If I get some booze in you, you might.
I think we were a couple of that first time we did have some
Oh, that
drinks.
was nice. Yeah.
That was fun.
I'm still doing oranges and cinnamon on my tequila.
No, for sure. Everybody should. The world should know.
Oh, it's the best.
It is.
I can't
Changes
believe
your life.
I can't believe we've done anything else. Like, it doesn't make sense.
I know. I mean, a lime's a lime, and some people are like, "Oh no."
No,
I'm
the
not even
orange
gonna try
cinnamon
it.
is the best.
Let
But you know
me
that
help you.
afterwards, I break it down and put things up. I try and clean up. I check the
Right.
bathrooms. Just kind of police the spaces I've been in, and then take that shit home and then start editing, man. And it's.
So you do it right away while it's fresh?
Sometimes it depends on, like, my work schedule. But I like to edit a little bit. I think I like rewatching it, right? Because when we're in it, I'm not really paying attention. We're just hanging out, Right. But to go back
we would.
Yeah.
And that's what you make that so comfortable, and not that we hang out all the time,
Yeah.
but when we see each other, it's like we were just there yesterday.
Yeah.
We were just hanging out.
It-
But it's just like that. Our friendship is like that, and our auras come together, and it's like we're brothers.
There's a lady. I hope she comes today. Her name's Vilma. The minute I met Vilma, I fell in love with her. And pretty thing, but it's like there's times in your life where you meet, and I feel like this about you.
Right.
There's times in your life where you meet somebody, you're like, holy shit, we're gonna be friends.
We are.
And I
And I
hadn't
knew
even
that
shook your
day.
hand yet.
I knew that.
That's how Vilma was, and it was like, oh my God, we got along great, and it's funny because, like, my friends from back home, I posted a post the other day. I said the best thing about growing up in a small town was all your friends were from when you were 4 years old. And it's funny because most of my friends are like that. We've known each other a long time, but it's like we got a text thread now for some of us, but a lot of us, it'd be 6 months, a year, maybe 2 years, and we see each other and it's like, hey, and all of a sudden you pick up from 2 years ago,
right.
and you have a great time. But I think it's just that we're charming. You and I are charming as fuck, and we have amazing character. We're like I don't know, I'm going to blow this, but, you know, those atoms that just keep coming back together.
Right.
Yeah, that's what we are.
I feel that way.
I feel like we're connected.
Yeah.
And again, if being gay wouldn't hurt so bad.
Exit only. My friend. Exit only. This last one. I'm going to give you one more, and then we just shoot the shit.
Yeah.
How has hosting this podcast impacted you personally? And we've breezed upon that.
Yeah.
You know, you've hit every one of my damn questions, and it's like, you know, you say it, and then I'm like, moving on.
Well, you know, not to sound over emotional, because I'm sure I already have, but like when I started the podcast, you know, Eddie died and we talked about all that stuff, but I wasn't doing shit, Kent. I've been, I was, when I'm not working, I'm lazy as fuck. But I was raised by a workaholic. And so he taught me to be a workaholic. So it got to the point where if I wasn't doing this podcast, it was work and home. A lot of just sitting there watching TV, being kind of lethargic and tired, and then, you know, end up losing Eddie, and then there's a little bit of depression. Yeah. And it's like, when you're a workaholic, I was telling Robert yesterday, I was like, when you're a workaholic, you don't know anything else, right? I'd love to do something else, but I don't know what there is to do, right? And so I think this gave me an opportunity to do something.
Did somebody tell you to do this? Or you just kind of like...
No, it was the
listen
scrapbook.
To podcast? Oh, okay.
It was a scrapbook.
Okay.
And listen, Nina's a great girl.
It's a great girl.
Men are from Mars and women are from stupider. We don't converse, really. We talk.
Right.
We don't converse. I enjoy conversation, right? I want to talk to you, but I also want to hear what you have to say.
Right.
And so in the beginning, I had to teach myself to listen, because Nina would tell me this between the two of me and her, you're always just waiting to talk. And I was like, fuck, I really am always just waiting to talk. So having nothing going on outside of work, being bummed out, nothing really going on. You know, I would tell people, hey, if you need something, call me. I'm not doing anything. You know, if you need help with something, or you need something moved, or you need to borrow the truck, let me know. You need kids picked up. And because we had gone through the whole not having kids thing, and the miscarriage stuff. So it was literally, you had this idea in your brain of what your life's going to look like. And then you start getting middle age and you go, oh, God had a different plan, right? And so it was kind of like, okay, I had anticipated being a workaholic, trying to start a career, to raise a family and have kids and buy this house and do all these things. And so you kind of put the cart in front of the horse. You're getting the house, you're getting the job, you're buying things, and you're waiting on the kids to come, and they never show up, right? And so after a while, it's like, no, now what are we going to do? You know, Nina loves soccer. But when Nina was neck deep, she's always been neck deep in soccer. You know, teaching's a crazy job, and everybody's tired when they're done. So like Nina's already plate was full. You know, mine was like, all I know is work. I'm out of work. What am I going to do? Let me stare at the ceiling and start watching 90 Day Fiance. And so this kind of starting as a scrapbook thing kind of led to me going, okay, there were days where it's like, man, I gotta go do this. It's like, and it wasn't like I had to, but I would tell myself, dude, you haven't been out of the house all day. You got to get out, go do this. And there was a few.
You started in your house. I remember, like with your dad.
Yeah, it was real creepy. Yeah, it felt bad.
It's cool though. It was the progression to see the progression guy.
Well, that's where also it kind of this place, Bo lending me a spot, was really helpful, because it was okay when I invited people I knew, but then again, you got this middle-aged fat guy who's charming and devilishly handsome going, hey, come to my house and do a podcast on my kitchen table. You know, to a stranger? Yeah. It's weird, right? What
are you going to wear?
Right. I was like, so we matched. Obviously, we didn't do that this time. But so being able to come here and invite other people and say, hey, here's the address. It's a business. It's not my house. You know, even though a lot of people do it and it's successful at their house, I'm like, it was different. But being able to give me something else to do, and eventually I was like, well, I really like it. And then after a while, I was like, man, I really like it. I'm collecting these stories. I'm doing my little scrapbook, digital scrapbook. And then after a while, I think it wasn't really even so much Bob's. I think it was Nina's Aunt Gracie. We talked about her life and cancer and stuff like that. That's when I was like, holy shit, I have a responsibility to these people. It's no longer just, hey, Gabe recording his mom and his dad and his friends. It's like, hey, you got a responsibility to these people to help get their story out as much as possible. Then it kind of turned into probably something what I needed, where it turned into like a more work related, because my mind's geared for work.
Right.
And now all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, how do we make this better? What can we do more to make this more appealing to folks so that they hear about somebody's cancer survival or whatever. Renee getting shot in the femoral artery and, almost dying. And it's like, how do you do that? And so it's been a learning process hasn't been easy. I haven't figured it out completely, but I enjoy meeting people. I enjoy the conversation, and
you're good at it.
For being a one-man band, I'm doing the best I can.
But you're great at it. You're very comforting. The first one that we
so
did, I was just like, holy shit. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't listen to yourself like this in your ears, is different, getting used to. But then you make people feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And you just make them throw it up, without even realizing, that you are being recorded, that you are, now you got the film.
Yeah.
And it's pretty incredible. Where do you want to see this go? What is your expectation, or what is your anticipation from 100 to, to 2?
I would love for it to one day be my occupation, because I feel like, I've told Nina before, I said I would love, I've told Nina, I told buddies of mine before, I always say, hey, it doesn't matter what we do, we will be successful. Right?
Right.
Because, and I got this little silly phrase where I say, winners win. Because that's just how we're wired, right? I always told Nina, I'm like, I said, could you imagine if we did the work and effort for ourselves that we do for somebody else? Why wouldn't we be successful? Right. So at one point, I would love it to be my occupation. But, oftentimes I've upgrading equipment, that kind of stuff. Right. Maybe having my own studio instead of borrowing Bo's spot, even though I would make it look exactly like Bo's spot.
It's totally cool spot. He'd let you do this for us.
You know what? He probably, after today, we'll find out. But
the dancing girls.
But it's honestly, that's a tough question, because I don't treat it like a potential business. I don't treat it like anything like that. Like, I get to hang out with somebody, I get to hang out with somebody who's interesting, and we get to share stories, and it's like, that's my favorite part. Right. And so for the future, like, I want more of that, right? I want more of, I want to have somebody on that's difficult to get on. And I want to have my childhood buddy come on and let's just crack jokes and make fun of each other. I want that gambit. I have.
And you should do that with your old homies.
It's hard to get them in. I've done it with Bojan, and that was a lot of fun. I think we were saying Total Eclipse of the Heart. He and I have been singing Total Eclipse of the Heart since we were like 15.
No way.
And we're the shit. We're amazing at it. Some of the other ones are like, I don't want to do it. I got children, I got a business, and it's like, well, okay. Yeah. This is not my business. It's somewhat of a hobby. So I can say stupid stuff, and nobody's gonna fire me, right? Unless they hear me or at work. But
it doesn't, for people that have never done this, it doesn't take that long.
Yeah.
But it's the impact of you having to come and do it.
Yeah.
Then you realize, man, I should have done that.
Yeah.
I should have done that a long time ago, or the first time he asked me, or,
And that's fun.
And I get what you're saying, because I've had other people ask me, and it's just like trying to fill it in. Trying to fill in that time where I would make all the time in the world for you, any day, any minute. It's just, that's us.
Yeah.
But I felt comfortable with it, and some of these other people, I don't know them from Adam.
Yeah.
But like now, saying what you're making me think like, well, maybe you should try. Not that I want to be cheating on your ass, but
No.
a different widening your network.
Yeah.
It would be totally different because those people don't meet. You knew my background, when we first
Yeah.
got together. And so you knew what to ask, what to do, and what I would say. It was,
Yeah.
That trooper one was really cool.
I like him.
Yeah. He was informative, but he was a good guy.
And he's terribly handsome.
He
Yeah.
was the epitome
Yeah.
of a
State
a
trooper.
DPS.
You know what I hate about him? His name's Brian Washko.
Right.
Drop dead gorgeous. 6'2", 6'3", 6'4". And I hate taking pictures next to him.
He was huge.
Well,
He was. You could tell just sitting in a chair
Yeah, he's 6'4", I'm 4'6".
and with a hat.
Yeah. And then he's got great posture.
Right.
And he's got this chubby little Mexican next to him.
I want to see your green card, my friend. Let's start that way.
He and I are a perfect 10. He's the 1 and I'm the 0. So I love Brian. And he's a
I love
cowboy
it.
too, so
You could tell he was a cowboy.
hopefully he shows up later.
Okay, this is one question I didn't want to miss. If there's one episode that you've got to pick out, which one are you the most proud of?
The most proud of?
I think it's got to be. I'm going there. It's got to be your dad.
You know what? Yes. But I think the one that I'm happy, I don't want to say most proud of, but, and it wasn't even an episode. I recorded a video the day he died. And he died on my birthday.
Oh.
So, I went, and I talk about it all in the little recording, but drove down there. Him and Mom did a good job of structuring everything to where when they died, everything was paid for. Everything was picked out.
The process was in place.
Everything was done. Yeah. And so it didn't take long. And, Dad had been sick a long time. I mean, we've been throwing Dad. Dad died at I think 77. We were throwing him his last birthday party since he was 65. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I came back, and it was late at night, and I just had a lot of thoughts and emotions and stuff. And so I came here to record, but I got to talk about Dad, and it was my version, and it was emotional because I was emotional, but it was important to me to tell people who my dad was. Right. When we recorded me and Dad, it was all in Spanish, so it wasn't like most people understood it. It was kind of, even when I said, hey, nobody's gonna understand it. He's like, well, I'm gonna do it in Spanish. I said, well, do it however you want. So it was one of those things where I think that gave me an outlet to kind of process what had happened. Right. And so
What a blessing.
it really was. Yeah. And it's also kind of one of those things where it's like I felt like everybody feels like their dad's amazing and their dad's best. I always tell my siblings, I'm like, but ours really was. Yeah. He had a lot of flaws. But he, it was funny because as flawed as he was equally as good, right? And those are some interesting people, A lot of times I find myself thankful that I'm Bear's son, and it was funny because all I do is work and do the podcast. I don't do much else. So I sit there and go, sometimes you look back and go, man, what are my accomplishments? And I'm like, well, my accomplishment was just Bear's son, But it's funny because when you meet people, when you talk to people, and you're at the church and you see all these people come up to you and they tell you stories you didn't know about your dad. Right. You already thought he was a good guy.
Those are great.
But you hear those other ones, and it's like, man, what's funny? I was really happy. I always tell people like the grandkids. One day when you have grandkids, you don't have any yet, right?
I don't.
Okay, good girls.
I'm starting to get worried, but it's okay.
They always see their grandfather or grandmother as an old person.
Right.
There's not a whole lot of reflection of what they were like 40, 50 years ago,
Exactly.
And it's funny because at the church, dad's grandkids and great grandkids were there. And, they're burying their grandfather, who they loved. But when they were aware of him, he was in a recliner most of the time.
Right. I agree. Same with my childhood.
Yeah. And, it was nice because the city of George West gave Dad his own day.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, they gave him his own day, Bear Molina Day. I think it's the 21st of November is what they gave him. And it was funny because you were able to show your grandkids and great grandkids, because when that happens, they go, "What the fuck? Who was Grandpa?" And it's funny because people go, "How did your dad?" When I tell people, they go, "How did your dad get his own day?" And I always say, "He's just coached Little League and was good to people." Right. That's literally all he was doing, But he impacted so many people through sport, through baseball and softball, and being a good guy that. And it's funny because and I say it in the recording that I made. Here's a guy with a 7th grade education, 4th grade education, something like that. Wow. Could read and do the things he needed to do, but education-wise, I feel like maybe there was a little bit of him that felt like he was lacking, because he probably was, right? But it was funny because of all the people that he impacted just through sport,
right?
And it was something that he loved. He loved coaching. He loved sport. Right. And it's funny because, like, something so simple as baseball, softball, whichever one it was, like, we forget how impactful that is on us when we're little. And I tell people, people think it's a game, but Dad always treated it as life lessons, right. He always associated with those things with life, And so you see these girls that he coached, or boys that he coached, or grown men even, and it's funny because they still talk about Dad, and they have their own kids. They might have their own grandkids. And it's like, how difficult is that to impact somebody's life when they're 7 or 8 playing fucking Little League?
Right.
But yet here they are, mid-40s, and they still talk about when they were 7 or 8 playing.
It's an amazing person.
It's crazy, right?
It is. It's a great thing.
I'm not trying to achieve that. I'm just trying to not piss too many people off, and if I can make you laugh, I'm happy with that.
Which is so easy at doing.
Which one, pissing off or?
A little bit of both, but I'm more on the laughing side. Always we do. We
Kent,
always have fun together.
I had the most fun yesterday, Kent. My favorite thing is to buy a truck or a car. Love it, because I'm gonna give you back then $40,000. Now it's like 90.
Right.
I'm gonna make you miserable. You know what I'm saying?
To earn that.
Oh yeah. Well, yesterday we had I'm not gonna use any names or anything, but we had a home security fella come over, and I love to talk and bullshit and whatever.
Anybody that walks in your door.
Oh, I love it. We ended up deciding to go with it. Well, later on, the guy coming to install, we talk about it. He goes, "Oh, well, this wasn't included. This wasn't included."
Always.
So I say, you know what? Go ahead.
Oh, there's so much shit in here.
Want some hose? Actually, that's empty.
Okay.
You need to switch the fireball.
You know what? Yeah.
Here in a minute, because you're gonna make me choke.
Okay. You don't like that?
I do. I love it, actually. It was Eddie's favorite, so we always took shots with it. Oh yeah. And so, where was it going?
We were at talking about your dad.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that he impacted.
Security. So the installer guy comes by, talks about it, and all of a sudden there's all these upgrades, right? Oh, fuck, we didn't talk about that.
And you're biting the hook or what?
Well, I'd already signed the paperwork. So I said, "Hey, can I get out of this?" And he's like, "Well, if I don't install anything, yeah, you can get out." I said, "Okay, well, I want to get out." The sales guy called me back, and like at 9:30 at night. And so I said, "Hey, man," I said, "We're not going to do it after all." And he turned into a little bitch, Kent.
He's the closer. He's a closer.
Well, he didn't close very well.
Right.
And so immediately it's like, but I spent so much time with you guys. And I said, "Okay." He goes, "I spent a lot of time." And I said, "Listen," I said, "we're not going to now." And this is another thing. I gave him some reasons why we were going to do it. I was trying to be nice. And he's like, "That's not why." And I said, oh, really? Why? He goes, because it's too expensive for you. And I said, you know what? I said, for everything you said we were going to get, and we're getting half of that for that price, you're probably right.
Right.
And so then he goes into the, hey, we spent too much time together, and I spent a lot of time with y'all. And I told him,
guilt.
Man, you know, that doesn't work with me, Kent.
Work with me.
That gets me fucking excited.
Right.
Because we're going to fight. And so I said, you know what? I said, I apologize for wasting your time. I said, I understand that we spent a lot of time with us. I said, so you know what? I said, in the future, if I need to change out the systems, I will not use you guys because I don't want to waste your time. And that motherfucker was texting me at 12 o'clock at night, sending me info on their systems. And I was like, this guy's something else. But
Block.
Oh, man, I love it, though. Listen, I've often said, there's black and white. There's no gray. I don't do gray well.
Right.
So I have to make a true effort. And this has helped me. This podcast has helped me learn to be more accepting of other people, listening to their perspective, kind of taking myself out of the conversation and seeing it for what it is, you know, in my side, your side, the grand total, and, you know, the totality of it all. But I was raised a motherfucker, Kent. And motherfucker Gabe wants to show up. You know, I just need that opportunity. And last night the guy gave it to me. You know what I told Nina? I didn't get anything, but I told Nina this morning I was taking a shower.
Satisfaction.
Oh, I love it. I told Nina, I said, man, I was praying they would send me a evaluation survey. I said I was going to give them 5 stars just to fuck with him.
I did so well. I spent so much time with him.
Oh, that doesn't work for me. And it was funny because he bragged about being from the East Coast and tough people. And Nina's like, I think you got a little too East Coast. I don't work down here. I said, you know.
Well, I mean, if you're going to sell something, come through with it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, don't get there. Like,
there was other things we're gonna have
it's
to
gonna
buy.
do this. Yeah.
There were upgrades he didn't tell us about. So there was other fees.
Right.
But
then
you know,
you're spending $200 a month on cable.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
That is.
No, and it was a home security. So it was
home
more than
security,
that.
yeah.
It was like almost $300 something bucks a month. So it was like, no, we're not doing that. So
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, I can get you a better deal than that. Yeah, it's crazy.
We'll talk about it after here because I don't want everybody else getting that deal.
But he's only got 5 minutes to spend with you. He's not going to take the day. No,
Hey,
I'm
it's
joking.
perfect. You know, it's funny. I used to buy Harleys from this guy in Green, and I loved him. Man, I forget his name. Albert was his name. I fucking loved Albert because I'd be at work and be like, man, I want a Harley.
No.
So I would text him and I go, hey, Albert, I need a new Harley. Here's my social security number. He'd send me 3 or 4 options. I said, I want the black one. And I said, when can it be ready? And he's like, I'll work on the paperwork now so we can buy after work. I said, I'll bring my helmet. And I would literally show up to Harley, shake Albert's hand, go to the back, sign the paperwork. The bike's already out front and clean. I get on and go home.
No.
And it's like, why can't people be like Albert? You know,
No, right.
there's very, like I told you yesterday, between regular work and podcast, and then just trying to be a husband and son and everything else, you know, friend. There's no time for the bullshit anymore. You know.
Do you still have one or you don't?
No, carpal tunnel, man. You know what's funny is we used to all ride together, me, Eddie, Joe, Barbara, my siblings, and Vidal. And we went I had a Nissan Titan. We went to the valley to the island. And there was no way to get down the beach. It was so packed. We stayed there about 4 days. I had a 2-wheel drive. And you could get on the soft sand, but you needed 4-wheel drive. I drove back from the valley Monday. Went straight to the dealership. I had all my beach shit in the back of the truck. I hadn't taken a bath in 4 days. Had salt water and sand all over me. I was in flip-flops and I stunk. And I walked in and I told the guy, I said, hey, I need a 4x4 and I'm going to trade this in. I'm going to trade that motorcycle in. And I told him I had a motorcycle. I was going to bring it. And so he swapped me out. I literally got the same exact truck, color, everything was the exact same, but I had 4x4. And I will never not have 4x4 again. It's just, I love the beach. Right. And you can still get stuck.
Especially that reason, for sure.
You can still get stuck, but I mean, but yeah, I'm just very impulsive. Like if I want something, I want it now. And if I don't get it now, well, I don't ever want it again, you know? So it's kind of one of those things.
Instant gratification.
Yeah, instant gratification. What is
That's our world. That is our world, man, for sure. So what's coming up with you next? I mean, we're at 100. You got somebody lined up for the next 10?
I got a buddy who has a scientist buddy who builds rockets. I'm still trying to work that angle.
Me too. He's an amazing guy.
Yeah, I'm trying to get in a gentleman I was mentioning here earlier who's looking to get a pardon from the presidential pardon this year.
That would be so cool.
That'd be cool.
Definitely.
You
know what I'm thinking? I know some really great musicians that would probably totally like.
Oh man, I'd love it.
I didn't even go down that alley in my head.
I love it
until we were talking earlier about that.
And
seeing that.
I had started that other side project where it was kind of like a musician showcase type thing, and I learned the hard way Gabe's availability and a musician who makes money for a living playing music. They're available when I'm at work. They're working when I'm available.
Right.
So I love it. It's just hard to get folks like that in. But man, I love it. And you know what else? I still would like to do the musical showcase at some point down the road. But I love getting them in. I did one with Victoria Rosa, I think 2 of them ago. She played a couple of songs, the beginning and the end. But even just
she
to
was
talk
acoustic,
to them.
right?
Yes.
She was acoustic.
Yeah. And I mean, even just to get them in and talk to them,
Right.
Because like a lot of times it's like, I love Dwight Yoakam. I would love to hear Dwight play music, but I also have his music on my phone, right? Let's talk about other shit, right? Let's talk about some music, of course, but you like fishing?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff is very interesting,
It
And
is.
I think a lot of times, especially like musicians, folks might love an artist and they just want to have FaceTime with them,
Right.
And I'm guilty of that too. But like, what else is there about you? What else is cool about you? And I really like that aspect is finding out, I'd seen a podcast with on Rogan with James Hetfield from Metallica. And
I didn't see that.
Oh, it's so good. And they talked about beekeeping. He likes beekeeping.
Really?
And I was like, holy shit, I never knew that.
Right.
And it's like, what else do your favorite people like doing? Right. And it's like, I find that interesting. I mean, the music's great and hearing about stories on the road, but what else is cool about you? I like that stuff. So
I'm going to get a chance to meet Jelly Roll in a couple of weeks. For
No
the very
kidding.
First time
Oh,
coming
man.
for the Final Four.
you better
And so-
get ready because I think he picks everybody up when he hugs them.
I'm good with that. I'm good with that. And so I was watching a video this morning when I got up, and it was him getting a donkey. And it was
really?
a miniature donkey.
Oh, really?
And it was just a really quick clip of it. But now I'm just like, what's up with your donkey? That's what I want to ask him. I was
Yeah.
like, tell me about your donkey. I'm so intrigued by that.
Yeah.
And he was just so enamored with this little donkey. And I want to know what happened to that story. How'd that pan out?
Yeah.
So,
No,
stuff
I
like
think
that.
I think that's awesome stuff, and I think those guys love to share that kind of thing too.
I think so too.
When are you meeting him?
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
2 weeks, I think, from today.
Okay.
So they have the stage at the Final Four that's coming up. It's over by the Institute of Texas Cultures.
Okay.
So they tore out the Institute's parking lot and they laid grass. So
Okay.
they're going to have this great stage. I think, let's see, Pitbull's coming, Chris Stapleton. It's Friday, Pitbull, Stapleton on Saturday, and Jelly Rolls on Sunday.
That's awesome, man.
So, and then I get to do some, that I can't say who the band's coming, but we're doing some corporations that are doing private parties with some like mind blowing. I'm like,
Really?
No shit.
Yeah.
People that I haven't met before.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that.
Dude, that is so cool.
Yeah.
What's funny is I love that you have those experiences. And a lot of times, I think people would kind of hear that and go, man, I wish I was doing that. Yeah, you know what? Everybody does. But at the same time, it's kind of like, I love that you have those experiences because I know you're a good fucking dude. And it's like, that makes me happy to hear that you have those experiences. I'm a homebody. I would love for Jelly Roll to come by the house and we'd hit up some corn
doubt.
dogs and watch some TV. But it's kind of like Nina's kind of. We used to go to concerts a lot. And Nina's like,
Right.
we need to start going to concerts again. I'm like,
You
oh,
do.
okay.
You do need to start hanging out with. need to.
I told Nina, I said, we'll go to concerts. I said, but I need to rent like a whole club suite and run everybody off. That way I can be. A funny story. I get anxiety, right? And I mean, everybody has some sort of anxiety, but I get to the point where like, And I think I said this on the last one. Yeah, I don't know which Gabe's going to show up. He might be introvert or he might be extrovert, but I don't know who's going to show up.
I'm that way too. Yeah. I'm exactly that way.
I don't know.
It just depends.
But I'll tell you a funny story. One time, Nina wanted to go to the circus when we first met. And we can probably close out with this story, but it was funny because she wanted to go to the circus. And I was like, I'm not going to the circus. There's kids and adults. And she goes, no, let's go. Let's go. It'll be fun. I said, all right. So I went online. I said, let me buy the most expensive ticket they have. And it said celebrity seating. I was like,
we're going to be in the middle of the ring.
Well, I heard celebrity, and for some reason I was like, I'm going to sit above everybody, and they're going to be away from me, and it'll be great, right? It was twice the price of all the other tickets, if not a little more. It wasn't even that much, but it was more than the regular ones. Let's buy them. Bought celebrity seating, and so Nina looks it up. She's like, oh, it's on the front row. I was like, okay, that's fine. And still, I'm thinking nobody's going to be around me. Nobody's going to be in front of me. So we go to the circus. It was back in the day when they let them have animals. And I'm sitting in the front row. And then all of a sudden, these clowns come up to the front row, and they open up the railing. And the guy looks at me and goes, come on, let's go. And I looked at him and I said, no. What are you talking about? He's like, you're celebrity seating. You got to come with me. And I was like, no. And Nina's like, get up. We're going with them. They fucking took us out of our seats, put us in the fucking circus on these cars, and drove us around the center of the fucking ring.
What?
Kent, I fucking almost passed out. I peed a little, and I was fucking miserable. And so Nina had a great time, of course. You know her.
Right.
And I was just sitting there freaked out. And here I am. I'm like,
And you're like waving at people?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was holding on to my seat, and I was like, I'm a big fat guy. I attract a lot of attention. And now everybody in this fucking circus is looking at me and Nina. And in hindsight, it was fun.
Right.
At the time, I peed a little. But I told her, I said, I'll take you to the circus again. I said, but we ain't getting fucking celebrities.
We're not doing that. We're not doing that. Hey, I wanted to tell you something that, like talking about being somewhere. Kelly and I were in Vegas a few weeks ago for my limo convention. Mm-hmm. So this is a total life-changing story. And so we had got there really early. I went to a slot machine, put $100 in, won $300 in a couple minutes. Kelly tried to get me cash out, hit it again, won $600. So I had like $900.
Yeah.
And the Eagles were playing at the Sphere in Vegas. And that's one of my buckets.
Yeah.
Got to go to that place. Got to see some good music. Bought some tickets. You got to go. Anybody listen to this?
Yeah.
It's life-changing.
Yeah.
That was the greatest show. It was like a sing-along, especially with the Eagles. But that was and I've been to hundreds of concerts. That was the best concert I'd ever been to. Not only, we were sitting way up high to get the whole effect of the Sphere.
Yeah.
And they were like a little postage stamp down below. Oh. But it was a sing-along. Go to a concert in that Sphere will be life-changing. And we're going to do it.
I would love to.
You know who's coming up next? Kenny Chesney.
Oh, really?
Is starting, I think, in May. Who's the residency there?
Who haven't you seen that you want to see?
Oh my gosh, Steely Dan. I've never seen Steely Dan. Mm-hmm. I would like to do that.
Yeah.
Mumford and Sons.
Oh, I bet they'd be good.
I'd really like to see them. And so there's great videos of them at Red Rock, and that's another bucket list is going to Red Rock and seeing a badass band.
Oh, I bet Red Rock would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
I when I think about musicians nowadays who I would love to see, like, I took mom and dad to see B.B. King, and B.B. King was something else.
An amazing man.
What was funny is, like, I just thought I liked B.B. King. I knew he was old. He was diabetic.
A little grumpy.
Yeah, he was grumpy. And when he showed up, I was not impressed. I thought, oh, here's this old dude and struggling to walk around, and the band sounded good,
But he was old.
Yeah, he probably didn't live much longer after we saw him.
Right.
But Lucille comes out, and the fucking spotlight hits him, and she's polished. Yeah. And that fucking light hit that guitar. And visually, you were like, holy shit.
There it is.
And when he even says, I don't play chords. When he hit that fucking guitar, Kent, it was like, oh, that's BB King.
Yeah.
That is fucking BB King. And I mean, you sat there. It's funny because like the girls that are going to play today, like there's times where I see somebody playing and like I feel like a fucking weirdo. And that's how I felt with BB King. Because you're just sitting there and you're grinning. Because you don't know what to do with yourself. Yeah. You're seeing something that doesn't make sense in your brain.
It's historical.
Yes.
That guy will live on forever.
Oh.
Like a Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yeah.
I mean, he's as popular now as he was back then. Same deal. BB King is still rocking away. That's so cool. I got to carry Lucille from the stage to the car.
Did you really?
I never. It was in a case.
Yeah.
But I knew it was in there.
Oh, man. That's
how bad off did I want to just shove that in the car and just take off? That would kill me. They'd have found me.
It was so amazing. So, like, acts that I want to see now, there's good people out there, but it takes a lot to get me out of the house. And but I'll tell you what, I'll go watch Dwight Yoakam anywhere he plays. You know,
I've seen him a couple times.
Yeah.
Met him.
I think I've seen him 6 times. Yeah,
he stands there. He's kind of like the George Strait.
Yeah,
George doesn't jump around, act stupid.
Yeah,
he just sits there and plays, belts it out. Same with Dwight.
But he's so good, and that little rockabilly style. Like I love that.
And you know he gets into it when his foot's starting to do this.
Yeah.
You know, he's getting that little swagger.
And those painted on jeans.
He's getting on it.
Yeah, I'm not gay, but I'll look, Kent. I'll look. We saw him at Floors, and it was so cool. It was so funny because he went to this wall, and he starts doing that little hip thrust, but he's going down the wall. Well, he gets down to the bottom of the wall, and he's not getting up. And so it's funny because the guitar player goes over there, starts laughing, and helps him up. And he starts laughing.
I've
Everybody's
never seen that. That's hysterical.
That was a great show. But I'll leave the house for Dwight.
Have you seen Willie?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you got to. He's coming soon. I think at the Majestic or something.
Yeah.
I'm thinking 2-night show, or maybe Whitewater.
Oh, really?
We got to go. If you've not seen Willie.
No, I haven't.
And I mean, I've seen him in his prime.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you got to.
You need to let me know how much tickets are because I need to go with Kent. Because when I go with Nina, we get in a fight. If I go with Kent, we'll probably have a good time.
I would buy you tickets.
So
both of you, for sure. It'll be fun, and we'll take a car, and then we can drink and not worry about a DUI.
You see, now you're talking my style. Now that's my speed.
That's the way to go.
Kent, I love the shit out of you.
I love the shit out of you, and it's such an honor to be here, and you to include me on this. I get goosebumps, bro.
Can I tell you something weird?
You kind of freaked me out a little bit, but go ahead.
Well, okay, I'll tell you something else. I'll be honest with you. Like, I feel like you're part of the podcast because, like I told you before, you're my milestones. You know,
I appreciate that.
I feel
Very
like,
honored.
I feel like the first time I got you on at 25, I told Nina, I was like, I got fucking Kit Mantle. And then when you came on at 50, it was like, dude, this is fucking cool. And when you came on at 75, it was like, I remember getting to 75. I was excited to get to 75.
Right. I was excited for you.
And so again, I feel like you're part of the podcast, man, because you're my milestone. You know, you remind me of kind of where I was, where I've gone, and where I want to go. And it's kind of like, it's almost like a check-in for me, right? It's kind of like every 25, I get to check in with Kent and tell you about the process, you know. So
and I can't wait till we get there and talk about that.
Me too, man.
You know, I can't wait. It's going to evolve.
Yeah.
It's going to evolve.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I also got a surprise for you.
A jet?
No. Oh. Well, maybe one day.
It's a turbo pro.
We'll have to take 2 separate ones because I'm sure there's a weight limit. But I do have a surprise for you.
Okay.
Let me go get it. Don't move.
Okay.
Hit it, girls.
What the fuck? No way.
Yo sé bien que estoy afuera, pero el día que yo me muera, sé que tendrás que llorar. Llorar, llorar.
I'm gonna need you to take this though, sorry. I will break it.
You're actually getting on the table.
Oh yeah.
Gotta be careful, it's very slippery.
Good thing y'all are kind of short.
Kinda.
Hey, Gabe, you got on the table too?
No.
There you go.
I don't think I've ever played on the table before.
You ladies watch those socks.
She doesn't remember it.
Okay, let's switch. Sorry. Kind of scary.
I greased it up, dude.
How the angles? We're good?
Don't
Did you check the cameras?
No, please get my socks.
Are we live?
Will you raise that one as high as possible? And then first thing, hold on until you're ready.
Where we at?
So this is a first for you guys.
You know, Gabe likes to put us in these awkward positions. We can't say no.
Yeah.
He pushes our limits.
I've
Opens
learned
up our
to
horizons.
say.
Shall we do it?
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Yeah.
Train coming, that's all and nothing.
Should we let him down? Or?
No.
This is it. He's got bad knees and stuff.
We're gonna go into something more traditional, guys. I hope y'all enjoy this one. We really enjoy it. Okay. We enjoy it way too much, actually.
Go ahead. Ready? You guys gotta keep it. Es buena la cervecita para el que está desvelado, para el que está desvelado. Es buena la cervecita, yo pequeño chiquitita, que no me importa luchada, que no me importa luchado, que hasta lo más consentida. Que reque, bailando contigo, que reque, bailando contigo.
Gabe, do you have any last requests?
Hey, girl, whatever you want.
Whatever we want.
Any last request?
Oh my
Last meal.
This is your last one, guys. If y'all had anyone that y'all want to dedicate or.
To Gabe.
Let me see.
To Gabe.
What are you thinking?
I love everything they do.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I hope y'all like this one. This one is our favorite, probably.
That's fine.
We play this one all the time. Oh, okay.
Thanks for listening to the Gabe Molina Podcast.
Yo, Barry.